गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पतः शृण्वन्नोतिभिश्रीलसाधनम् ॐ श्री महागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ धृतमं तत्सणीनां विश्वरूपमदाभ्यं बृहस्पतिर्वरेण्यम् ॐ तद्विष्णो परमं पदं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरय दिवीवचस्फुरागतम् ॐ श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयनपथगामी भवतु मे। Everybody say along, try to say along with me. Hare Ram Krishna Krishna. Om Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna. Om Shrim Shrim Jyothishya Namah. Jnananandamayam devam nirmalakshmikakritim आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवं उपास्महे। Okay, we'll start. So, Sanjayji, he will be coming here. Okay, we'll start. So, Sanjayji, he will be coming here. What is in the last class? I thought the concept of Pravesha. How many of you haven't heard the NDC, haven't gone through the NDC? So I quickly summarize. Pravesha I taught in the last class, and I said that this is what I used in 90% of my successful predictions in the last 3 or 4 years. So what I said is, looking at the Vishwatiri Dasha, looking at the dashas, antardashas and pratyanta dashas, and identifying important events when they happen, which month, which week, that is very difficult, extremely difficult. If you are bothered about something in the short run, what will happen in the next 2 months? Will my job be okay, or will I get laid off, or I am out of job, will I get a job in the next 2 months or 3 months or not? If you have certain queries like that, which have a very short-term focus, it is very tough to find using Vishwatiri. If you are a good astrologer, you can use any technique to predict anything. But for somebody who is starting, somebody who is not very, very, very intelligent, just using Vishwatiri and making very precise predictions is very difficult. And what I said is, this technique of PP Pravesha, I call it PP as an abbreviation. This technique of PP is very, very easy to do. And even though you may not be perfect in your prediction, you will be far more successful than just using the natal chart, dasha, and transit using this. And basically what I said is, this is the equivalent of the solar return charts of Western astrology. And these are basically lunar return charts. So what I said is, traditional Indians celebrate their birthday on the tithi of their birth. They were born in a particular month on, let's say, Shukla Chaturdashi Tithi. Then in the same month and Shukla Chaturdashi Tithi returns every year, they celebrate their birthday. So what I said is, you celebrate your birthday on the tithi of your birth. Tithi is basically lunar day. It is based on the phase of moon. And another thing is, when the tithi comes, and also the percentage of the tithi that is left matches that you have occurred at your birth. Suppose you were born on Shukla Chaturdashi Tithi, and exactly half the tithi was over. Then your birthday will come on Shukla Chaturdashi Tithi, and exactly when half the tithi is over, at that time, you make a chart. And based on that, you can find out what is going to happen in the next 1 4 years, following the birthday. So this technique, when you use this technique, there is a dasha called Vishwatiri Dasha. So I said that instead of using Vishwatiri Dasha, just use this dasha. And you can just use the software. I don't want to go through the calculations. We have time, we can do it later. But you can just use the software. So I gave a few examples for those of you who want to just use the software. And by the way, this Tithi Pravesha as well as Tithi Astrology were added in the latest release of even the light version of the software. So anybody can download it and try this part. So what I said is, for example, let me take an example. Let us say And who remembers what I said in the last class about the ruler of the year? Who is the ruler of the year? When you find Vikravesa, Overall, yes, you remember. Good. So, when you make this chart, there is one planet who is like the king for the whole year. Yeah? From this one, 19 is so after that, we got okay. So if you have that example, today we don't have much time, but we'll take it up in the next class. You get the data and then you can explain what you found. So that will be interesting. But I am telling you, if you use this technique, you don't really have to twist your head, you don't have to do complicated analysis. Things will really come out very clearly. Things will come out very clearly. The only problem is still you have to make sure that the lagna ascendant in the regional part is reasonably accurate. So based on the events that you know from the past, you may still have to massage the button and do this, do this. So that problem never goes away. Called accurate time, you can never make predictions. But things become much clearer with this technique. And I said in the last class that this was test feature until a few years back. Because traditionally, anything that gives good results is a test feature. Anything that is up to you is very good anyway. That is how things work in India. So this is one of the techniques that works very well. So it was a very closely kept secret, and it was revealed for good or bad. We decided that we no longer have to see secret. We just reveal important knowledge so that knowledge will be used by people and defined by people, and people will accept the people as they live. So with that thought, we revealed it, and we agreed to reveal it. So we revealed it, and whether we are right or not, God will decide. So let us take this example. So suppose you want to find out whether roughly 1947 August time frame is good for this person or not. Using Vikravesa, which year do you have to see? He was born in November, on November 14, 1889. So his birthday, the Tithi-based birthday, will come around that. It will come in October, November, December time frame. So if you look at the 1946 chart, so what you have to do is you have the software under year, type 1946 and say find Vikravesa. And when you do that, you will see that his birthday came on December 14, 1946 at 4:28:44 p.m. And then you can look at the Horalad. If you go down, scroll in this window, you will find the Horalad. So who is the Horalad? Who is the ruler of the year for this gentleman? Mars. And for those of you who don't know who he is, how many of you don't know Jawaharlal Nehru? Okay, nobody. So that's good. Jawaharlal Nehru, he was the Prime Minister of India. He was the first Prime Minister of India. He was born in a very wealthy and influential family in India, and he was involved. He was an associate of Mahatma Gandhi, and they fought for freedom of India from the British rule. And in 1947, on August 15, when India became an independent country, the first Prime Minister chosen for India was Jawaharlal Nehru. So he was India's Prime Minister from 1947 till 1964 when he died. So until he died, he was unopposed. So he had a great Rajyoga starting from 1947. Until then, he was in prison, he went through all kinds of hardships. But in 1947, he became the Prime Minister of the country. So, do you think that when you look at 1946-47 annual chart, chart, do you think that there should be an important, some key Rajyoga in the particular year chart? There is. If you see that, let me first let us look at Rashi chart. Because I always keep saying, somebody asked me in one of the previous classes, why does Rashi chart show something bad but Dasanta show something good? Why does Rashi show something bad but Navamsa show something good? I keep saying this always. Rashi chart is the chart of your physical existence. So even though Jawaharlal Nehru, Pandit Sanjay Rath is here, that is Pandit Sanjay Rath, and that is Sarvani Sarkar. He is the president of the Jagannath Center in India, and he is the establisher, founder of the Jagannath Center, and he is my guru. And I will take 5 minutes to wrap up this example, and then he will take over. So, I keep saying that Rashi chart is the chart of physical existence, and various divisional charts, they throw light on various areas of life. So, we saw that Mars is the ruler of the year. Everybody said that Mars is the ruler of the year, or next to during the year. If you look at Rashi chart, Mars is the 7th lord in 8th house. That is not really a good placement for Mars. So basically, at the physical level, he was struggling, he was working hard, he was maybe putting a lot of late nights, he was arguing, he was fighting. So you see all the bad indications. Why? Don't make the mistake of saying that this is a bad year for him. Go to Dashansha, because that is the chart of what you do in society, what you achieve. And if you look at Dashansha, there is Mars. Who is Mars? Is he a Yogaraka? What houses does Mars own? 10 and 5th house. So from Cancer, Mars was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th house, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th house. So owning 5th and 10th houses. 5th house of power, 10th house of karma, Aries, and they are trine and quadrant. So he is a Yogaraka, and he is exalted in the 7th house. With who? Moon. Who is Moon? Lagna Lord. So Lagna Lord and 5th Lord, Lagna Lord and 10th Lord, they are conjoining in the 7th house. So that is a great Rajoga. And that Mars happens to be Solar Lord. That means ruler of the year. So the ruler of the year Mars is a Yogakaraka in the Kansa. He is taking part in a ninth Rajoga. Not only that, look at who is in the 10th house. Which planet is in the 10th house? Bhadgalagna is there. Bhadgalagna I haven't covered yet, but some of you may already know it. It is a Lagna that is important for seeing power. Adhika. Similarly, Bhada Lagna is for money. So whenever you see here, that basically stands for power. So Bhadga Lagna is there, Aru Lagna is there, that is the 10th house of coronation. And Sun is exalted there. And I keep telling you that if you look at Amsa ruler, if you look at Dasamsa, which god Samsa is Sun in the planet in the 10th house? Indramsa. Being in Indramsa, he shows power. So if you look at Astotri Dasa, even though he actually became Prime Minister in Moon Dasa, all the deal, everything was basically made in the Sun Dasa. So this whole period, Sun, Moon, Mars, this whole period was a very important period in his life. Very pivotal period. This may be more difficult to see in Vimshati Dasa. I am not saying impossible, but more difficult. You have to really apply yourself well. You have to be good. Your understanding has to be good. But if you just use Vipavesa, it stands out very clearly that this is a very important year for him. He will rise. There will be great power for him between June 21 and September 24. Sun, Moon and Mars. Indeed, during this time, he became the Prime Minister of India. And he remained the Prime Minister for many years, almost 70 years. So that great Rajoga was figured in this period because the Dashansha is strong. So the message I want to give you is, don't be satisfied just by looking at Rashi chart. Physically, he may have gone through a lot of conflicts during the year. He may be staying late and fighting with Jinnah, fighting with Gandhi, arguing with everybody. That is what Mars, 7th Lord in 8th house shows. All these arguments, fights, anxiety. But as far as his career is concerned, this is a tremendous year for him. So with that, I conclude for today. Pandit Sanjay Rath will take over. He is a great teacher. Even if whether he is talking about something very simple, even if he talks about something very simple, even very advanced students among you will have something to learn. And even when he talks about something very advanced, even the most basic students among you will understand something or other. That is the great quality about him. He is a very captivating and enchanting speaker. You will see it for yourself. I will give the computer to him and I will sit among the students.
So, before I will start, the first thing I want to know is, I'm very happy to see you here. Really very happy. It was my dream that a study circle will start in America. It was a dream that, because in America everything is so commercial, that you have, everything is so commercialized in America. And commercial in these matters, you can't really buy God or sell God. You really can't do that. The day must come when you realize that there is something in this world which is not commercial. there can be no monetary equation for that. And the day the study circle started, when I told him that ultimately that is that's my dream. It must be informal, it must be study circle. And so he started with this. He was happy with me, and I want to spend time with all of you. So you have done a lot of Jyotish, and Jyotish has been interesting, right? So you don't know about the Atma Karaka?
Haven't.
Since I'm here, I'll
Arudha, Ankara, Methodist Karaka, Rajmistri, and Peter.
they have learned so much. You have learned Arudha views, you have understood the entire world of Maya and how the Maya is working. Right?
They started understanding.
Understanding Maya is a bit difficult. But the Atma Karaka, actually, the most important thing in Jyotish is to know that we are basically spiritual beings having a material existence. Right? Do you agree on that or you don't agree on that?
Yes.
You all agree. You agree on that we are basically spiritual beings. Science, physics teaches us that the sunlight has got 7 colors. Right? Which are the 7 colors?
Violet,
Yeah.
green, yellow, orange.
So, we have 7 colors. So the sunlight, which is an indicator of light, is having 7 colors. So these are the 7 grahas, as we call them. At the level of the Atma, everything is light. The soul is nothing but a spark of light. The Rishis have described the soul as a spark of light. And this light is not pure white. Had it been pure white, you will be God. We are all having different colors based upon the karma that is encompassing that light. You see that? So there are 7 different colors of the sunlight, and these are called the 7 karakas. But there is one more, which is a stage where there is no light. This is complete darkness, and that is black. Right? So we have these 7 colors plus one which is totally dark, and that is Rahu. It is completely dark, totally darkness. But at the spiritual level, when you compare, let us say there are 2 lights. Let us say there is this light burning, and there is another, let's say we put a red light over here. So what happens when you have white light and red light? What is the color in the room? It will be red, because if the intensity is the same, the red light will dominate and the white light will not be visible. You see the point? Just like that, when the Atma and the Paramatma sit close to each other, if God and you were to sit close to each other, you can't see God because you are only seeing yourself. You are basking in your own light. You are enjoying your own light. You are enjoying your own existence. That is called Ahankara. In Jyotish, it is very important to understand that this light and this spark is existing within each other. And you have to find out what is the color of this spark. If you can find out what this color of the spark is, you will know to what extent this spiritual development has occurred in this particular field. And how far he is going further. Okay. Now, if there are 2 lights, one has very high intensity and one has a very low intensity. Naturally, the high intensity light is basking in its glory. But as the intensity of this individual light, or we call the individual Atma's light, keeps coming down, his Ahankara is actually coming down. A stage comes when his own light finishes. He refuses to accept himself as an important person. He thinks that the only importance is God, rest is all meaning. That is the state of complete darkness. The Atma loses own self-light completely. And then only can you see the light of God. So that is the state when the Atma is like Rahu. Or when the Atma Karaka becomes like Rahu, or total darkness, then you can see God. So Rahu as an Atma Karaka will produce people who can be the highest of saints. In the other extreme, when he himself is in complete darkness and refuses to see the light of God, then he will be the highest criminal. So Rahu as an Atma Karaka can produce a person who can be either a saint among saints or a biggest of criminals. This is the two extremes that are coming over there. Why it is coming, you must understand. Now the question is, how do we determine which planet is the Atma Karaka? So that is very simple. Let us take this chart. Okay, what you have to do is you write the name, you write these 7 planets from the Sun to Rahu. Okay? And you see the degrees of this planet irrespective of the sign. Forget the signs they are placed in. You see the Sun 28 degrees? Now, in the case of Rahu, you have to do 30 degrees minus 17. Because Rahu in Vedic astrology is always retrograde. Rahu is always reversing, always retrograde. So it has to be 30 degrees minus 17. That is called the effective degrees of Rahu. So what is the degree of Rahu over here? Effective degree?
12 degrees.
12 degrees 3 minutes. 30 minus 1757 is about 12 degrees 3 minutes. So that's not high because we want to know which among these planets has the highest degree. Right. So that planet becomes the Atma Karaka. Why does it become the Atma Karaka? Everybody till now knows, especially Jyotish Gurus. Can you tell me why does the planet with the highest degree become Atma Karaka? Advanced in what? Okay, make a good guess. I always make a good guess.
I think it depends on the age, how evolved the planet is, more evolved.
So planet with a higher degree is more evolved.
Yeah, more mature, age, something related to the age.
Right.
Wiser, so that's why we do that.
You cannot be very wise, but can be old. There are many old men who are not wise.
And when you talk about the Avastha, planet very advanced may also be in Balyavastha. And those of you who don't understand it, don't worry about it. We will do Avastha.
So that was not a very valid argument. It was pretty good, but not very valid. We were talking about light. We can answer in terms of light.
Because,
What light? They all have light. All these grahas have light.
spectrum, look at the spectrum. I guess the
Let us-
highest degree is.
Yeah, you are right. Actually, let's look at it like this. We have a room with a room in our heart with 8 different light bulbs. Okay? And each light bulb has its own intensity. It is not as if the sun, the moon's light is not there or the Mars's light is not there. All these 8 lights are there. But the light of the sun is the highest. The intensity is the highest. That is why it is the Atma Karaka. In Jyotish, I will go away in a few days. But remember this basic advice of mine. Always ask why. You must ask, torture your master with this question why. Don't worry about it. He'll be very happy later when you know why. You must know why, you must know when, and you must know how. Why it is happening. You say it is Atma Karaka. Why it is Atma Karaka? Because the intensity of the light is higher. It is very important to understand that this is the reason behind it. Then only when you go and you learn later on, when you are advanced, we will teach you Charakaraka replacement and all that. You cannot understand Charakaraka replacement really if you don't understand this. So, we find that the sun is having a lot of light. So, if the sun is dominating the person's,
When you say, if you look at the physical plane, all these planets are different points in the zodiac. Just because a planet is running 28 degrees to the zodiac, why is its light more intense?
because it starts from 0, we have a regulator starting from 0 in the sign. The Sankranti, each of the planet's light is based upon Sankranti. How many days from Sankranti? And each degree is a day. So Sankranti is 0 light. And it goes on and on and on until it reaches 30 degrees, which is the highest amount of light. And then suddenly the light goes off, the bulb fuses. And then again you have a new bulb.
Every Rashi it happens.
Every Rashi. In fact, Sankranti is a very important thing. Sankranti indicates Whenever a planet changes sign, any planet, whether the sun or anyone changes sign, it is a kranti of the planet. That means the light is becoming zero. That is why these signs are called sun signs. They are basically indicating the amount of light in the planet. So, you have the sun increasing in light. This knowledge is made use of in Prashna also. Let us say this was a Prashna chart, and we were to find out which Tithi is the person born in. I would take the degrees of the sun and take the Tithi from there. Okay, there are various ways to do it. But you got to understand that the higher degree the planet is in, that knob is that much higher. It is say 28, here almost 29 degrees. Almost fully in there. Very strong light. Strong light is also not good.
We put it slightly differently. Each sign is basically one Aditya, Goddess Aditya. So whenever a planet is leaving one sign and entering another sign, the source of light is another Aditya. So it starts fresh with that Aditya, and as it progresses, stays with that Aditya for longer, it basically grabs more light from that Aditya. And when the planet leaves that sign, goes to the next sign, it has to get light from another Aditya. It is a fresh process again. Again, digital between
Yes. But this is Goddess Aditya. Okay. Look at it like this. We started our entire analogy with the concept of God and man. Right? The more light I have, the lesser I can see others' light. The more ego I have, the lesser I can see somebody else's. Yes, it does. And that is what exactly I am going to do. So when a planet will become an Atma Karaka, the traits of that planet will be stamped on your nature. Because that is the light which you can see. That is the light which is guiding your mind, your intellect. All our intelligence is guided by light. Like insects are guided by light. So it's always believed. Here you see sun is the Atma Karaka. If sun is the Atma Karaka, you will find a lot of ego in the person. The flaws of that planet will come on him. It is bound to be there. So he will have a lot of ego problems. What else do you think he will have?
You should be royal also, king.
Yes, very kingly. What do you need to be kingly? That means you must have subject. You must have subject over whom you can trample.
This is always pros and cons of it.
Yes. All I want you to know is know the pros as well as the cons. Because cons which matter in the real spiritual life. What else do you see about the sun? Negative. You see the positive and look for the negative from there.
Clearly he's
Selfish. Sun is single. He can't stay with too many. He's selfish. He's alone.
He's high ego, highest ego.
Ego means what I am important. The highness is very strong. Arrogant. Yes.
He's also cruel at times.
Yes, it's cruel at times, but do you see what a cruelty over here? Where is the sun in this time? Do you think there will be a little bit of cruelty in matters of the fifth house? It's a cruel sign. Scorpio is the most cruel sign of the zodiac, right? So the Atma Karaka is in a cruel sign. So not only will he be cruel, he will also see some cruelty. Because that is the experience that the Atma must have. Because that is the house in which the Atma Karaka is. Is it in the 7th house or the 10th house? Okay, in the 7th house in this case. We just take a random chart. This is not Jawaharlal Nehru's chart. So don't think of Jawaharlal Nehru. It's just a random chart. We'll open up the Nehru chart and then we will design a
looking at the particular year.
Okay, let us talk about Nehru. So you know Nehru. Fine. So moon is Atma Karaka in this chart. Okay? So moon Atma Karaka will be given what? Fluctuating nature, yes. What else? Compassion is a positive thing in him. Good. Charming, yes. Good. Very good. Did the moon ever come under a curse? Have you heard of the story of the moon and the curse? What are the curse on the moon? What did he do? Moon ran away with somebody's wife, right? With Jupiter's wife, Moon ran away, na? Is it possible that such a person could run away with somebody else's wife?
Yeah, one night.
Whenever you see that, straight away you can say these things will happen. The dangers of these are the falls. You can list of falls that can happen in your life. And if they happen, then certain things will also come. Okay? So if the question, if someone were to show you a chart like this and you go to the person and say that, I think he has run away with somebody's wife, what will you answer? The likelihood is very high. Very high. Because that is a burden that must come on the soul. That means, why has the moon become Atma Karaka in his chart? That means God is going to test you in this life. With that, so an opportunity will come in your life that you will be tested with somebody else's wife. And God will ask, do not covet the neighbor's wife. Do you covet or not? Yes. No, not so you can see that. Okay? So the Atma Karaka is the planet which is so crucial in a chart. Now here the Atma Karaka is in Lagna. So what does that indicate? Very strong, a very good placement for the Atma Karaka. The Lagna is very strong. It guarantees fame because Lagna has to do with fame. Right? So the Atma Karaka is in Lagna and associated with the moon or Jupiter. You know that moon or Jupiter in Lagna guarantees fame. So there is fame which is guaranteed in this chart. Fame much beyond his depth. So moon is promising that also. What else are you able to see from the Atma Karaka? I want to know about flaws. I don't know about good things. Good things anyway everybody can see. What else is the flaw of the moon? It is waning and it is waxing. So the fluctuation she correctly pointed out. What else? Right? Yeah. No. Would you say Krishna Saptami is weak? Ashtami onwards. Yes. Exactly. Yeah, very good. Very good point. Very good point. See, the biggest minus point with the moon, which everybody ignores, is the light is not his. He cannot stand up on his own. He lacks that character to stand alone. He cannot do that. He always needs somebody else whose light he can reflect. That is the nature of the moon. And when he finds such a sun whose light he can reflect, then he will succeed in that. So Nehru was Mr. Nobody until he found Gandhi.
Is it a leader to follow?
That has to be us. The moon is always seeking the sun. Without the sun, the moon is nothing. The light is never original. So is others, but they do not depend. They have other attributes. For example, Jupiter's strength is its magnetic field. That magnetic field is his intelligence. So different attributes of different planets are not dependent upon others. As moon is dependent upon the sun. That is not his strength. Different planets have different sources. What is the strength of Jupiter? The strength of Jupiter is his purity. If it is not pure, like the intelligence is not pure, it is lost. Okay, good point. Very good point. Anybody else wants to give me some very good point like this? Please think. You have learned the basics, so use the basics and tell me. Yes, tell me. What answer you want me to know? Answer? Vedic answer. Okay. Let's see that answer. Khanabala is important. Swami Graha are weak. People who are good are always weak. It is not good to be good.
Sometimes too good also stand there and weak.
Look at this actually. I don't think that is right. In fact, moon being a natural benefic indicates it will not allow the soul to suffer much. Not suffering is not indicated for the soul. And without suffering, the soul cannot grow out of it. We all have latent karma in us. If we do not suffer the karma in this lifetime, we will come again to suffer it in another lifetime. That is sure. So we have escaped to the cycle of karma. So if there is no escape to the cycle of karma and we have to come back to it, we might as well suffer it now. And those who can suffer the karma, they become of two types. They can become an adult Hitler, who suffered and become such a fellow, or they can become a great spiritual saint. Suffering can teach you that there is no point in this world of causing more suffering, because if you come back again, you might as well give up.
In that case, let's say, example, at the end of the life cycle, how can you determine where you are? Have you retired and have you gone down? Or is it actually so different?
We have a Jyothishya system. I do not know whether you read my paper on this. It is called the Saptaloka in colors. Where do you go after that? You make a chart from the moment a person dies. And quite a lot of information we get. Only about this life, but also what is after. And we have clear slokas from Parashara and all that. I've done a couple of charts, including the last year in the West Coast I have done chart of Mahatma Gandhi. So the big question that I had posed to people was, when he died, the words from his mouth were, "Hey Ram." When the chart is showing something else. So what are we doing? So then we studied the chart. We saw how, where one goes, what are the intermediate levels to which you go before you. Just like God or whatever God is, by one definition. We don't have the definition. What is beyond the seven lokas? I do not know. Maybe the highest spiritualist may know. I do. I know that there are seven lokas and where you will go, what you will see, and how it will happen. God is beyond these seven words or spiritual planes or whatever. So that's a very interesting paper. For those of you who are into spirituality. Yes. Yes. It means a lot of wealth. Moon and Venus yoga is a yoga for wealth. Tremendous amount of wealth. Multi-billionaires. They have so much money that they do not have places to keep that money. When Moon and Venus conjunct, it shows a place or a spot that there is a lot of money in it. All the luxuries that this world can ever offer are yours. And that is a big test on the Atma Karaka. Why does the Atma need money? What will the Atma do with money? What can you buy? Can you buy God? So then why should the Atma Karaka have so much money associated with it? Is it not a flaw? So that means the Atma shall be in the burden of that wealth. That wealth will be in a way, it will be an obstacle to his spiritual growth. You see, so Karakamsha is the Navamsha sign occupied by the Atma Karaka. The sign occupied by the Atma Karaka in the Navamsha is really Sagittarius. It has Venus in it. It shows a lot of wealth. It shows a person who will be interested in Kavya. Venus is Kavya, poetry. So the Atma will be interested in poetry. Poetry will like him and he will love poetry. So whenever you find that such a person will start singing poetry or doing poetry, know that the flaws of the moon will definitely be showing up on its own. So such a person, had he shown his horoscope to me, I would have told him, stay far away from poetry. No poetry, no singing songs in front of ladies.
Very romantic.
Yes. You know what happens over there? Such a moon has a conjunction of Venus, what will happen? So you can clearly see that this is a fall that is happening and this is going to cause problems later. So the Atma Karaka is such an important line. And in his case, it is all the more important because this Venus is also part of his Malavya Mahapurusha Yoga. You have done Mahapurusha Yoga, right? No? Some of you have done Mahapurusha Yoga. Okay, before I proceed further as Atma Karaka, let's touch on this Mahapurusha Yoga. Who is the Mahapurusha? Who is the Purusha?
God.
Purusha is Lord and Narayana. Mahapurusha is the person, a human being, who can be equated to God because of certain attributes that he or she has. So Mahapurusha Yoga, we take the argument that it's Purusha and not available in these Ataka is wrong. That is the first thing we got to remove from our mind. Secondly, what are the Kendras? Kendras in any horoscope show your ability, what you can withstand, what you can do, what is your strength. Planets in Kendra show how, lots of planets in Kendra show a very strong person. It shows that you can do things. So these are people who really are they are very strong in a way. Why are they strong? Because they can take suffering. Who is strong? You can take suffering, right? So first thing about Mahapurusha Yoga is there is a lot of suffering in life. You will be tested. And you are supposed to pass the tests that are associated with the planet. Then only can we say that you are a Mahapurusha. See, we have the horoscope of Sri Ram. Do you know the horoscope of Sri Ram? Cancer Lagna. Cancer Lagna. Jupiter exalted in Lagna with the moon. 4th house Saturn exalted. 7th house Mars exalted. 10th house Sun exalted. Just see how many planets are in Kendra and how many are exalted. So here is what we call as a Purushottama. Because he has all the planets exalted in Kendras and all the Kendras. So he is Purushottama. Now, to be Purushottama, the condition that I told you is one Mahapurusha Yoga. You have to suffer. There is no escape. You will be tested. And in the areas in which you say you are strong, if the world has to call you a Mahapurusha, that means you will be tested in the area of the Mahapurusha and you must pass the test. If you fail the test, you are not a Mahapurusha. So here we have which planet that is going to test him? How many of you would give him a pass? Say?
Because you like woman
Mercury is not the one. Mercury is not causing Mahapurusha Yoga. A Mahapurusha Yoga is caused if one of the 5 planets from Mars to Saturn, which is Mars, then Mercury, then Jupiter, Venus and Saturn. One of these 5 planets is in a quadrant from Lagna. That means one of the Pancha Tattvas which is controlled by this planet is extremely strong in the person. Here what is the Pancha Tattva? Venus. Venus rules which Tattva? Jala Tattva. Are you aware of Pancha Tattva? That is the 5 elements or the 5 forms of existence of all matter. The Jala Tattva is very strong, or the water element, the liquid is very strong in it. So when the liquid is very strong, the person will always be tested in Venus related areas. He should pass that to be defined as a Mahapurusha. Okay? Okay. So now you have to see the chart in this manner and you can see how the Atma Karaka and this Mahapurusha planet are over here. In Sagittarius. You can see that, right? And the test was also over here. What does Sagittarius indicate? A fall from height. So in this area, it falls from height. It's not always a physical fall. It's not like falling from on top of a building or something like that. It can be, when the Karakamsha is involved, it can indicate a spiritual fall. Jupiter, the Vedic says that when Jupiter is in trine, then the person is, you cannot even doubt him, you cannot even doubt him. He's so clear. The Jupiter is clear. Jupiter is, that is why Vishnu is worshipped on Thursdays. Why? Because the importance of Vishnu is in the purity. Everything that is pure. That is why before any prayer you have to say the name of Vishnu 3 times. Om Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. Why? So that everything becomes pure. Bhu, Bhuva and Swargaloka are pure. All impurities go away. A person who takes the name Vishnu, 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 Vishnu all the time is going to be pure. All his sins will go away. That is why, that is the importance of the name of Vishnu. That is why the names of Vishnu are taken. Otherwise there is no need to take the name. Why are you taking the name? What are you getting out of it? What you should get out of it is purity. If you don't get purity, then don't take the name.
Yes. These represent mind. So Atma and Atmakata is mind. These soul and mind are
Narasimha has made a very beautiful statement. Narasimha says that the moment conception occurs, the Atma is trapped by the mana, and is brought into the sea. So, it is not a question of Atma having union with the mana. Every Atma is having a union with the mana. The extent to which the mana will have a control over the Atma will depend upon the Atma. If moon has become the Atma Karaka, the mana is completely controlling the Atma. The Atma is sort of given itself to the mana. So, all of us that way, the Atma is only an observer. The mana is right. In fact, the mana is the real king. Although we say Atma Karaka is king, the mana is the real, in the practical world he is the king. Because wherever the mana will go, that is where he will go. And look at the houses of the mana. Fourth house is the house of? Pardon? What is the fourth house? What do you do in the fourth house?
Comfort, happiness, peace.
What is happiness? What is happiness?
Very subjective. Very subjective.
Very subjective, right? So it is subjective to what?
Yeah.
It's a state of mind. It is what the mind is going to consider as something that is giving joy. Right? The fourth house. It is also the house of curing, because a happy mind is one that cures quickly. A sad mind is one that doesn't heal easily. The body cannot heal if the mind is sad all the time. The body heals every day. Every day when you sleep, your body is healing. And again, when morning you wake up, you are fresh, full of energy. So, the fourth house is the controller for the 12th house of sleep. And Cancer is the natural fourth house of the zodiac, whose lord is the moon. See the connection. Why is Cancer the fourth house? Why is the moon the lord of Cancer? Because the moon as the lord of Cancer is indicating the mind, the conscious mind. So the fourth house indicates what is there in your conscious mind. The Lagna is your intelligence. What is the nature of your intelligence? Is it corrupted intelligence or is it a pure intelligence? So that will depend upon the planet in the Lagna. Your moon is a beneficial planet in the Lagna. And what is there in his mind all the time? Venus and Mercury. Whatever. Your definition of that Venus may be romance, but it could be so many other things. It could be so many other things. Pardon? Patriotism more within the fifth house. No person associated with the fifth house. Right. Fifth house is the best. Because for the fifth house you can kill yourself. For the ninth house you will not kill yourself. You have heard of fathers dying for their sons, but very few sons die for their fathers. Okay? So that's the fifth and ninth house. Towards the fifth house you have a responsibility. It is the future. You can give yourself for your children. A mother can do anything for her children. But she won't do all that anything for herself. Am I clearly understood? The difference between 6th and 9th you should understand. People talk of 6th and 9th as harmony. Western astrology considers 6th and 9th as harmony. What do you think? Is it harmony? Right. It is, in fact, it is a lineage. The 5th, 1 and 5 is a lineage. It's a continuity. It's not in harmony. You could be very disharmonious with your father. If somebody is 9th Lord in 7th, he will never listen to his father. There is a harmony over there. It just shows a similar nature. Continuity in the line. Good point. Okay. We'll just come back to the Atma Karaka. Shall we take some horoscope of some saints and see how many of you are saints out here? Or budding saints? I can take the chart and take it.
There are some, but they will not agree with that.
Who are
The real saint will not understand.
Now I'm curious to look at that.
You see, what about this person? Have you heard of Prabhupada?
Yes.
You see the Atma Karaka here is Rahu. What does it indicate? The one word. I have some catch words so that I easily remember. Rahu, shock. Saturn, sorrow. Dukkha. So the moment you see Rahu over there, Atma Karaka, you blindly say, you would have got a lot of shocks in life. Person is definitely not. He will get shocks in life. But after getting these shocks, will he become spiritual or will he become a criminal? How will he decide? Intensity of the shock. Often that is not the case. Sometimes small shocks can create big criminals. Sometimes very big shocks can create. So it's not intensity really. Intensity of the shock you will see from the number of planets in trine to it. Anyway, you can look at the Navamsha. Look at the Navamsha. We have Rahu in Libra. Right? Let's look at the planets in trine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. None. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mars. You see that?
Yeah.
So malefics and trines to Kalakamsha make a person very spiritual. Because the Atma has the ability to absorb all those shocks. The Atma will have to learn to absorb that much of shock. And the Atma which can absorb more and more shock, more and more sorrow, more and more anger, is the same. So that is why Gemini says, 2 malefics in trines to Karakamsha is a mantrika. Mantrika means he who says mantras. You think Srila Prabhupada was saying mantras? Yeah? You think so? He chanted his mantras every day? Not only did he chant, he made the whole world chant. Now that means that means this Atma is that strong that it has realized that this chanting of mantras is very, very important. And why did he do that? What is Mars in this chart? Mars is the 5th lord. And it conjoins the moon in the Rashi chart. So other details you can see. The most important is to find out, do you think he will chant mantras? Unless you know whether he is chanting mantras or not, how will you say what mantra he is chanting or what he is going to do? So it is necessary to know what is the strength of the soul. The Atma, what is the Atma wanting? If you don't know what the soul wants, you could be loitering, the whole life journey could be a waste. It is possible that what you are doing right now could be totally against what your soul wants to do. And internally you will be tormented. Outwardly you will be very happy in having BMW car and latest everything. So internally you will be very tormented. So the Atma Karaka is important. Okay? So what do you think over here of Rahu with Mars in trine? He has mantrika, so 2 is mantrika, 3 is yantrika. Yantrika means he who also knows who has the knowledge of the diagrams and the spaces, like somebody who can, this is a yantra, you know, square which you go over here and put planet, this is a yantra. It's a zodiac, but it's a yantra. A yantra is a diagram, any kind of a diagram. This is a diagram of the sky. So this is a yantra in a way. So people who know Jyotish are really very spiritual people. But Jyotish is considered to be very, very spiritual. Unless you are so blessed, you will not be sitting and drawing this yantra every day. This particular image is an image of Narayana himself on Bhuloka. The Eastern zodiac, this particular kind of zodiac, called the sun chart, is a representation of Narayana in size. Whereas that square zodiac, which is supposed to be very auspicious, is a representation of Narayana on the ground. And this is considered very auspicious. If you want to do somebody's marriage or anything related to material world, you draw the zodiac like this on the floor. On the floor, you are not allowed to draw the zodiac in any other manner. This is the manner. That is why this is very strict, that drawing of the zodiac is considered very auspicious. If you know how to draw it, with what grains, what this is considered very auspicious. You will draw it properly on the floor, worship the ground, worship the sun. He who knows this is very, very learned. He will have the knowledge of the blessings. So astrologers are to be respected. That is why Parashara says, do not curse any Jyothishya. But then there is a strict definition of Jyothishya. It should be pure, it should be, he is one who is protected by Vishnu. Because they say, if you curse a Jyothishya, you will be born blind. A Jyothishya has the power of the sun god behind him, that is why he can see. Okay? So never curse any astrologer, never do that. No matter how much he may dislike you, there may be a lot of jealousy and a lot of ego among Jyotishas. The biggest minus point among astrologers, because of the sun's rays in them, you have a lot of ego. You want to be really good at Jyotishas, learn to shed this ego. Because Surya is coming inside you. More and more Surya, more and more orange light. So more and more ego. Let go of the ego and take the knowledge of the sun. The sun is got all the brilliance and knowledge. Take that knowledge of Shiva. That's a big blessing for you. Take that knowledge of Shiva, but don't take the ego of the sun. Let go of the ego, become Devagya. Okay? So now, let us see this chart further. So you saw that he was very spiritual because of Rahu. What is it that triggered his spirituality? Something triggered his spirituality very strongly. You see this Mars in sign? One of the important things that is Mars represents sea. Are you aware of it? Sea. Sea, the beverage sea. Especially chai. This moon with Mars specifically indicates chai. Moon is water, liquid. Mars is hot water. And intoxicating water. A water that intoxicates you, which energizes you. This is taja chai. As soon as you are dull, feeling sleepy, as soon as you take chai, you become strong and fresh, you can do work. Yeah, it is not, it really doesn't, it is more Moon and Saturn than Moon and Mars. Moon and Mars would be sea. Mars is something which really energizes you, it makes the blood flow faster.
According to Ayurveda, Rashi creates more water, dryness, and Saturn is a dry planet, it creates dryness, water. On the other hand, Mars creates Pitta, it creates sea. And more than Rashi is water and sea, sea is Pitta.
Yes, whenever in fact it is true, what he says is very true. Mars is something which really energizes you, which makes the blood flow faster.
According to Ayurveda, Rashi creates more water, dryness, than sea. And Saturn is a dry planet, it creates dryness, water. On the other hand, Mars creates Pitta, it creates sea. And more than Kati. Kati is Vata increasing, but she is slightly different.
So it's happening and not happening. To cool you down and to heat you up.
Yes, in fact it is true. What he says is very true. I have blood pressure, and I got blood pressure because of drinking tea in government offices. In Delhi, everybody serves tea, and a lot of pitta is in your head all the time. It is very bad for them. Very bad for your ego, very bad for anger. Those of you who are from India will know what it is. Anyway, so you can clearly see over here Moon with Mars. What triggered him was the statement. You see, Atma. The Atma must need a trigger to go towards God. Here Rahu is in trines to, the Karakamsha has trines of Mars in the 9th house. So the trigger must come from Mars. But from whom? Who is the person who will trigger? Whether he will become spiritual or he will become a criminal, how do you see from a chart? You know of Arudha Lagna, right? Mm-hmm. And
what comes out?
So what matters is the 3rd and 6th house from Arudha Lagna. Because ultimately it is this Mayavi world. In this Mayavi world, or the world of illusion, how is your karma going to manifest? Will you manifest as a person who picks up the gun in his hand, or a person who picks up the rosary in his hand? What will you pick up in your hand? What is 3rd house's hand? What will you have in your hand? Will you have a gun in your hand, or will you have a rosary in your hand? That is why the 3rd house is very crucial. 6th house is the belly. A man does everything for his stomach. How much? If this belly is burning all the time, you can kill somebody for food. But if you are able to suppress that and keep it calm, then, so 6th house shows what you will renounce. A benefit show an attitude of renunciation. Malefics show what you will take away. Yes, in the 6th house. So he has got Venus in the 6th from Arudha Lagna. Venus in sexuality, spouse. So he will renounce his spouse. He will renounce sexuality. Such a person is a very good sadhu. Such a person should become a sadhu. He should renounce. He should be encouraged to take up sannyas. Okay? Because it is debilitated, it will be difficult to renounce that. See the practicality. Because Venus is debilitated, the renunciation will be all the more difficult. So he was married. And he was with his wife and children. And his attachment to the material world was because of his wife. But the day his wife asked him, you have to make a choice between tea or me. He told his wife, tea or me. His wife chose tea. So he left. Yeah, she in fact she took his books. He got his books printed. And she sold them and bought tea with it. She would buy a tea with it. She liked special tea from India. So she would sell the Bhagavad Gita and buy tea with it. So he asked her, you have to take a choice now. The tea or me. You have to renounce the tea, enough. You cannot sell my books all the time for this. So his wife laughed and said, tea. So you can see that Mars triggering, the Mars was the T was the trigger. So everybody suffers in life. You are not the only one. He is also suffering. Okay. So the point is, because Venus is debilitated, the renunciation of marriage was started. Mercury is exalted. What is Mercury? Mercury is Karaka which house? 10th house, right? So 10th house is your work. It is your work. It is your entire karmic life in this mundane world. It is your money, it's your financial dealings. That's why Mercury is a financial planet. It is not money, but it is the one who controls money flows. It is not wealth, but he is the one who distributes the wealth. So Mercury is the Karaka of the 10th house or Karma Bhava. So true renunciation occurs when you renounce two houses, 7th house and 10th house. You have to renounce these houses. Unless you renounce these houses, your renunciation is not perfect. Am I clearly understood? You are not a perfect sadhu. To be a perfect sadhu, you have to renounce these two things. Venus and Mercury have to be renounced. So he has Venus and Mercury both in the 6th house. Chances are that he is a good sadhu. Renunciation of Mercury is easy for him, but renunciation of Venus is very difficult for him. Because Venus is debilitated, Mercury is exalted. It is easy.
But that is there is Nidhanga.
Because of Mercury.
Not being there, they have been more difficult.
Yes. Because of Nidhanga. If Nidhanga was not there, so definitely the next is possible. Okay, now. So you see this chart. You can see that the suffering of Rahu, the shocks of Rahu, is taking him towards spirituality and renunciation. So Atma Karaka has to be studied with the Arudha Lagna. When you get the shock from the Atma Karaka, what are you becoming? So, in such a horoscope, you must be a very responsible Jyotishi. As a responsible Jyotishi, your job is to make his path easier. You know from this chart when it comes in front of you that yes, this person is a spiritual soul, he has to go towards that spiritual life of renunciation of spouse, Venus, and renunciation of work, Mercury. He has to go in this path. It is already decided. The point is, your job is to make the path easier by showing him the way. So what will you tell? Krishna teaches a beautiful thing in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, the mind shall go in that direction of the deity, and the person will take on the nature of the deity whom he worships. So worship is a very important thing. By worshipping, by mantra, mana krayi, to protect the mind. How do you protect the mind? By keeping it on the right path. And how can you keep the mind on the right path? The mantra. So if he does a mantra associated with his planets Venus and Mercury, you think he will be on the right path? Venus and Mercury, which are giving him the spiritual path in the 6th from Arudha Lagna, are in whose sign? Mercury, Kanya, Mercury's sign, right? Mercury indicates which planet according to Krishna Marga? Krishna. So if he worships Krishna, his path will become easier for him. He will easily go to his spiritual path. We are going. Ishtadevta is something particular. One we are talking of a life path, and one we are talking of my spiritual path. Spiritual path, my ultimate moksha is something else. I have to, a transition phase is the painful phase. What will make the transition easier? He has to go towards Venus and Mercury, right? Who will cause him to go towards Venus and Mercury? The sign Virgo, where they are placed. Who is the lord of the sign Virgo? Mercury. And according to Prashna Marga, which is the deity of Mercury? It can be Krishna or Rama or Vishnu Avatar. Mercury is Vishnu Avatar. Okay? According to Prashna Marga, because I am talking purely of mundane life, what is happening around. I am not talking of the real spirituality which is internal. Yeah, because I am talking of Arudha Lagna and 6th from Arudha Lagna. What is Arudha Lagna? It is Maya. It is not truth. That is not the truth. The point is that we have to help him to make the transition smoothly. Otherwise, lot of shock treatment will be given to him and the transition will take place. Yeah. Depending, if there are benefits over that, then I will give that. Because did I give it on the planet on the 6th from Arudha Lagna, or did I give it on the Lord of the sign? The Lord of the sign. You see, step by step I went with you. The planets in the 6th from Arudha Lagna are Venus and Mercury. Venus is indicating renunciation of spouse, Mercury is indicating renunciation of work. Perfect sannyasi. Perfect, there is no doubt. to even doubt him is wrong. He was clean. Okay? Now they are in whose sign? They are in Mercury's sign. So Mercury indicates Vishnu as the Lord of Virgo. Okay? Now, you have all understood what I was trying to say. There is another young boy called Naren, and we are going to see his chart, and we are going to guide him. Okay? You have to make him. Get Vivekananda. You make him. If you look at this chart, let me have the comments on the Atma Karaka. So what is the first thing that you will advise him? Ego. You think he had ego? Huh? He had a hell of a lot. Be straight about it. Yes, he had lots of ego. How many people can go and tell a priest, a British priest those days, you are a fool, you don't know anything? Who will make a statement, you are a fool? Who will get up in the middle of a train journey and slap another fellow? It's an ego problem. It's a straight ego problem. You know that it is an ego problem. He's always trying to put the other one down. You see that? He has to let that go. How many people are there who can tell the spiritual master, you are a complete fraud. Stop defrauding the world. Who will do that? The sun is Atma Karaka. You think I would have done that? I will never do that. I would have Surya as my Atma Karaka. No matter what, even if I think he is a fraud, I will not tell him anything. Because I don't have Surya as my Atma Karaka. You see my point?
Nature.
And this Surya as Atma Karaka is in Lagna. So naturally it is all the more dominant in him. If you look at his eyes, big eyes, full of fire, that man was just stand like that. Straight, always majestic over there. He is too proud to go and beg for food. He would rather go and eat so much of chilies for lunch. A whole bowl of chilies for lunch. Chilies. Now chilies are on which planet? Not the sun. Are you sure it is Mars or the sun? Could be Mars, tell me.
It is because chilies are hot in nature. But Mars is Agni.
Agni is what? Jala? What about sun? Surya is not Agni? What is the difference between the Agni of Surya and the Agni of Mars?
Agni is Surya and the Dhamma. And it is
Why does it do it? How does it do it? That is the point. One, see, when you look at fire, something burning, there are two things associated with it. One is the heat and one is the light. Both are Agni. In fire, you find two things. One is light and one is the heat. The light is the sun. The heat is Mars. So, chilies are what?
Mars.
Why is that hot?
Hot, because there's no light coming.
No, when you touch, you see chilies out from the fridge and touch it, it's cold. So after eating it, you felt the heat, not before eating. So what was it? I want to know about chili before you ate it. After you ate it, it was part of your body. So the effect of the chili on you is to take out Mars, right? So it is the Karaka. Mars becomes the Karaka for chili. But which planet will indicate the chili? Pardon? What is the third one? You have to name a lot of Karakas. Sun, right? Okay. Surya. The taste, what is the taste? Spicy, hot, fictional, is it? So imagine if you took the sun and put it in your mouth, how will you feel? Hanuman did that, right? So did you feel a burning sensation? More than that. Yes, the chilies are ruled by the sun. When you eat it, the effect on your body is Mars. Because according to the Pachakadi Sambandha, Mars is the Karaka for the Surya. This is very advanced. We will teach you later. Pachakadi Sambandha and all that. Okay? So anyway, so he ate a lot of chilies rather than beg for food. Why? As a bhikshuk, you are supposed to beg for food. You are supposed to let go. The more you beg for food, the more your ego will go. You are not allowed to keep food with you for more than 3 nights. You cannot store food. You cannot store any commodity which you can use for more than 3 nights. As a bhikshuk, you are not allowed. If you say you are a sadhu, you have to renounce all these things. You cannot keep anything, not even money, which can last you for more than 3 days. You cannot live under a roof or any place for more than 3 nights. Even a tree, you cannot sleep under the same tree for more than 3 nights, lest you get attached to the tree. The rules are very strict. If you wish to follow it, you got to have that moral fiber and strength to do it. It's very easy to say, to actually do it is very difficult. Okay, now let's look at the Arudha Lagna. Okay, which is Atma Karaka, but the sun will give a couple of shocks, right? What is the shock that Surya will give? What sort of thing that Surya will give? Surya is Atma Karaka. Pardon? From government, from father, authority, right? What else? Do you know when the sun is negative, it can cause tremendous poverty? See, sun is the source of everything in this world. When the sun decides to teach you a lesson, he will just tighten your purse strings. And you suffer seriously financially. Number one. Number two, depending on the house it rules, the Atma Karaka can punish you from there. Can punish you from the houses it rules. Here Atma Karaka is ruling the 9th house. So the punishment can come from the father or from the guru. These two are holding the power to punish you. Okay? Now, when that punishment will come, actually there was a stage in his life. So, can you imagine a person like Vivekananda not getting a job? Is it not strange?
Second chance.
What circumstances? Who created those circumstances? So you can imagine that there are forces in this world which are in play which we don't understand easily, for which we need Jyotish to understand. Why is it that a person like Vivekananda would not get a job easily when he was so learned and so brilliant? Anyway, look at the Arudha Lagna in the 6th from it, 3rd and 6th from it. Do you think he's going to go ultimately with all this suffering and all that? Will he become a criminal or will he become a good man? A good man, a saint, right? So 3rd house from Arudha Lagna is having Jupiter, 6th house is having Venus and Mercury. So if Venus and Mercury are in 6th from Arudha Lagna, what do you say? He will renounce Venus, that is marriage and work and money. He will have to renounce all this. And who will cause him to renounce all this? In whose sign is it placed? And which is the deity you will indicate? Will you indicate the Saturn? Brahma or Kali? You think it could be Kali? Right. He unconsciously went to the temple of Kali. He used to fight with Thakur all the time. He was such a Vedic personification of Kali. And Thakur used to smile and tell him, please renounce and come with me and renounce. He said, no, I'm going to get married. Here is my invitation card. And don't trouble me anymore. So Thakur said, okay, we'll see. And the day before his marriage, his father died and his marriage had to be done. The point is, life can give some terrible shocks. He was ready to get married. He was not renouncing. Because the Arudha Lagna Lord is the sun, he thought that I am the boss of everything. He can only see his light, he can't see God's light. So the suffering came, and the renunciation of marriage came because of death of father. You see, it is in the sign of Capricorn. The renunciation was not a natural renunciation, it was a Capricorn type of renunciation. Death causing something to go away. Capricorn represents the burning heart, the graveyard. So it was death which caused the renunciation to happen. The marriage broke after that. You see the point? So death was what? Capricorn is what is causing it. That means Kali had come to take him and taken him past. Because this Venus and Mercury are in the sign of Capricorn, it was Kali, Kalika. That shows what is in your hand. It does not show your renunciation. What is in his hand? What is Jupiter in hand? Rosary. Mala. The weapon of Jupiter is said to be a mala, a rosary. The whole world goes with various weapons to the battlefield. Jupiter will go only with his mala. He does nothing, he will just do in the name of God. Okay? That is Jupiter in the third house from Alta Lagna. Okay, now. So you can see all these things working in the Rashi chart so beautifully, and you saw how the Atma Karaka was dragged into the spiritual path. Go on. Maybe you want to
within that in the ninth house, is there some intrinsic significance in that when you're dealing with such a complete spokesperson before that person? So it was representing the future of you as such,
normally it is the Lagna itself. Lagna is the intelligence. Actually, if the Lagna is in the sign of Jupiter, then the person will be totally dedicated to intelligence. Because none of us can give our Lagna, because that is our intelligence. That is us. So, since his Lagna was Dhanu Lagna, he will be totally dedicated to his master. For him, his master was everybody. And after his master left, he desired to live in this world with us. See, the Lagna will indicate what is it that you are attached to. What is it that you like. Like we say Jupiter is in Lagna, he will like sweets very much. So Jupiter is the Guru in Lagna and he likes sweets. So just as he likes sweets, he will like his Guru also. Why he only taking that? He will like one thing. He will like all the things that are related to Jupiter. So that is his Lagna.
Because it's in the public is receiving as the voice of God, the public is pure.
That is because of ninth Lord in Lagna. That is because of ninth Lord coming to Lagna as the Atma Karaka. So his real self-realization occurred when he fully dedicated himself to his master. The complete perfect surrender. So that is not there with them. It is not possible with a very young one.
The shock, you mentioned the shock. Rahu
Is the shock. Yeah.
Why here the Atmakar sun?
Correct.
I don't see how.
You don't see the exact shock. Right. Let's look at the shock. Atmakaraka is the sun, right? Does the sun have any aspect of Rahu on it? Is Rahu aspecting the Atmakaraka? It is aspecting. So this is where the shock is. You look at all the aspects coming on this Atmakaraka. Okay? The planets aspecting the Atmakaraka will show the shocks. But here you see the Karakamsha here. Again the sun is in Sagittarius. Right? But here Rahu is not aspecting it. Whereas here in trines to this you find Mercury. So the Atma, when the statement just made that he was the voice of his master, the Atma's real opening up was this speech, Mercury. The planets in trines to the Atma Karaka will show what the Atma must do, what he has come to do, what is the trigger. What are the signs which are ruled by this planet Mercury? Because just as in the case of Prabhupada, we took Mars, right, in the Navamsha chart. We traced Mars. Mars was the planet in trines to the Karakamsha, right? And we took that planet and came to the Rashi chart to see what the trigger was. Here, Mercury is the trigger. You can see Mercury in trines to the Sun. Okay? The spiritual trigger is always in the trines of the Karakamsha. So what is Mercury in this Rashi chart?
The 7th house and the 10th house.
So 7th house is marriage.
Marriage.
You think marriage was the trigger? Marriage was the trigger. 7th Lord is conjoined Venus. If the Lord of a house conjoins the Karaka of that house, the person will surely desire that. He wanted to marry. See, the thing about Vivekananda is he was very truthful. He was very clear that he wanted to marry. His 7th Lord Mercury is conjoined Shukra. How is it that the person will not want to marry? But this is what he has to renounce, because this is in the 6th from Arudha Lagna. If we look at, so who is the planet who caused the renunciation? Saturn, which is the lord of the sign. Okay, now remember, now what we have to do as the next step is to find out what is Saturn and who is Saturn. Because in this world of souls, we have souls which are interacting. He is the Atma, I am Atma. These Atmas are talking to each other in a different language. So who is this Saturn? It is the Bhratri-Karaka, and the Bhratri-Karaka is the master. You see the trigger, how the trigger occurred from the 7th house of marriage, because it was Mercury, and how the master did it, because it's Mercury and Venus are in 6th from Arudha Lagna, is a sign of Saturn. Okay? What do you say? You have understood? What does any Vargotam planet indicate? Right? Thanks to what? Acha? Okay. I will show you one planet. And you tell me whether this Vargotam is good or bad. No. Okay, here, look at this chart. This was famous in the old world. Right, so I am not giving famous. The famous persons make the job easy for everybody. Do you find the planet Vargotam over here, Surya? See, it is exalted, it is Vargotam. What do you think will be the result of Surya? Yeah? Let us see Surya Dasha. This is interesting. What would have happened to him in Surya Dasha? When was he born? He was born in 74 April. Right? So when he was born in Surya Dasha, Ketu and Surya and Mercury. Right? So what would have happened to him? You think the Surya is very good? It is strong? Exalted, strong. Vargottama. The question, topic that came up was Vargottama. Let us first understand what planet, what is the meaning of Vargottama, then we can talk about Atmakaraka Vargottama. If we don't know what is Vargottama fully, then how will we extend that rule to Atmakaraka or to anybody else? Right? What is this? What would have happened? Anybody who can make a prediction.
This is a royally place. We've been in a big household. We were born into a household where it will be royal, treated well.
Why did you say that? I'll ask you a question. Whenever you say anything, I'll ask why. When? How? Why? First question.
This sun's influence is strong.
Sun's influence is strong on what?
The third house.
So third house means why will it give him a big house? Third house has nothing to do with house. It has nothing to do with family. Brother, no, he doesn't have brother. He is only child. Courage at that age? 2 years, 1-year-old courage, I think. Why did you say who's a defective hand? Brilliant. Why? Seventh Lord in Smaraka is seventh Lord, yes.
Seventh Lord.
The third house has to be
At birth, I was getting at birth what you do.
Gandanta. See the Gandanta. Is not Sankranti. Is not Sankranti. 48 degrees? Right. So in 48 minutes, how much does the Lagna proceed by? You haven't done calculation? How long does it take for a sign to be covered? Approximately 12 signs are covered in 24 hours. So one sign is covered in how many hours? In 2 hours. So in 48 minutes, which is roughly 1 hour, how much of the sign is covered?
Almost midway.
Almost midway, 15 degrees. So 48 minutes is a lot. It is one Navamsha. So the first Navamsha is called Gandanta. Remember the simple thing. First Navamsha. In the borders of the water and fire. Water and fire borders will always have Gandanta. Because water and fire cannot be together. One will quench the other. Either water quench the fire or the fire will evaporate all the water. They cannot be together. So that is why you see in this Meena, which is water, and Mesha, which is fire, the border is the Gandanta. Similarly, Cancer and Leo, water and fire is the Gandanta. Similarly, you can see Scorpio, water, Sagittarius, fire, the border is the Gandanta. See, the names of the Gandantas are based upon the nakshatras in the border. Okay. For example, this border between Scorpio and Sagittarius is called Mula Gandanta or Jyeshtha Gandanta. Why? Because Jyeshtha is a nakshatra in this side of the water side, and Mula is a nakshatra in the fire side. The deities of this nakshatra, Jyeshtha's deity is what? Indra, the god of the gods, Devendra, and Mula's deity is Rakshasa. So what happens when Rakshasa and Indra come together? They go to battle. So that is Gandanta. One of them will have to be destroyed. That is why it is called Mula Gandanta. Mula Gandanta is said to be very dangerous because you are being pursued by Devendra to be killed. Jyeshtha Gandanta is supposed to be very terrible because the Rakshasa like Ravana will be after your blood. So you understand, that is the meaning of Gandanta. Here the planet Surya is in Gandanta. So if a person is under Surya's distance, physical problems and mental problems, pain could occur. As soon as the baby was born, his arm broke, his hand broke, and it had to be plastered, and he was in plaster for 6 months. That is, you see, so what is the meaning of this Vargottama Surya? See, it increased the pain. It increased the effect of the Gandanta. Whenever a planet is Vargottama, what is the meaning of that? Why is it called Uttama Varga? Uttama is the head. Among the body parts, which is the most important part? Which is Uttama, the best part? Is your head. Right? I think your head is more important than your hand, right? You can do without your hand, but you can't do without your head. So, count from the sign occupied by the planet in the Rashi chart to the sign occupied in the Navamsha. That will show the inner effect of the planet. So, let us take moon in this chart, okay? Moon is in which Rashi?
Capricorn.
In which Navamsha? Aquarius. So count from Capricorn to Aquarius, how many times you get? 2. So the effect of the moon in this chart is second house. Good or bad is a separate issue. I am not talking of good or bad. Good or bad we will find out later. It can give good results pertaining to second house. It can give bad results pertaining to second house. But it will surely give you results pertaining to second house. During the period of the moon, the results of the second house cannot be escaped. Now count from sun. Where is the sun in the Rashi? Where is in Navamsha? So Aries to Aries is 1. First house, Lagna. So when a planet is Vargottama, it has a direct impact on your internal makeup. It is like an Atmakaraka. It is like the Lagna Lord. You cannot escape. You will have the abilities of the planet. So if Surya is Vargottama, the person is a very good administrator. He has great leadership qualities. If Mercury is Vargottama, the person can speak very well. He can captivate audiences with his speech. He is extremely brilliant. He learns very quickly. Because the nature or the inner nature of Mercury is within him. That is the Vargottama. That is the meaning of Vargottama. Because it is surely going to give you results pertaining to the first house. But in this chart, Surya is also Maraka. And it is in the third house of hands. So if the sun has to give results pertaining to the first house or health and is looking at your hands and is a Maraka mood or Gandanta mood, what will it do? It will break your arm. Now imagine this Surya would, let us say the Surya was in this Navamsha, second Navamsha. So from Aries to Taurus, two houses. So then it would not have broken his arm. There would have been some serious problem pertaining to his wealth, his family. And then third house is brothers or some such thing related to third house in the family affairs would have got destroyed. So, another secret. Okay? Yes. 15th April 1974. Yeah. Yeah, this is the place. This is there. 3:16:22 a.m. is corrected time in a place called Split in Croatia. Okay? So Vargottama you have understood, right? Any of you have planets in Vargottama? Can we see your chart? Okay, well, I will start one by one, starting from Narasimha, so he deserves it. Could you identify the planet which is Vargottama? Oh, we are almost time up, okay? Okay, so I'll do a few things quickly. Mercury is Vargottama. Do you think he speaks well, he teaches well? You think he's a good teacher? Very good teacher. Mercury has to do with the learning process. If Mercury is Vargottama, the person is a very good teacher and he is also a very good learner. A person who is not a good learner cannot be a good teacher. A person who does not know how to obey, a soldier who is not a good soldier, can never be a good general. A Vargottama Surya means a person who is a good soldier and who will be a good general. A person who is not a good officer can never be a good ruler. Because the very seed is not in you. So a Vargottama Mercury means he who has that seed of Mercury deeply ingrained in him. He can speak very well. He is a good learner and a very good teacher. So you think you should continue learning Jyotish from him?
Yes.
Just on this basis, because this is Vargottama Mercury. Now, what is he good at teaching? Mercury is in which sign? Aries. Aries is a fire sign, water sign? Fire sign. So that means it is knowledge and spiritual knowledge. It is in that direction that it will be there. Agni is the fire. Fire is related to spirituality. He will be very good at this. This is the direction in which he will go. Shall we see one more? I think I know another person who has got it.
This is the natural Karakatya of the planet that's more emphasized.
Yes, the natural Karakatya.
How about the Lord? How is the beginning of strengthening the system?
No. It is an ability that is in you. But when the period comes, good or bad will happen based upon on your body. It will have good or bad effect on your body depending upon the lordship. In the previous case you saw, Surya was a Maraka for the house. So whenever Surya comes, he teaches him some hard lessons. But he does it in his way because he is a Maraka. And he has not changed, so that is why there is also Gandanta. Basically the problem was because Surya is in Gandanta. Had it not been in Gandanta, this problem would have been there. Gandanta is bad, no matter what. Keep this in mind.
So even if the Surya is Maraka, still because it is in Gandanta, it's all over.
Yes. If it was not in Gandanta, it would not be bad. Why?
Because it's Maraka.
Seventh Lord need not be bad. You can't take it out from your head that your wife is your murderer. You have to take it out. No. Seventh Lord is your partner. You have to harmonize with that. It is your
Maraka too.
It is Maraka also. No doubt about it. If anything in excess is a Maraka, why only seventh house?
If it's not in Gandanta, it won't be Gandanta.
Yes, he's right. For this particular case. Yes. But, so it all depends on the position and things like that. We will see one more. Let us see one more. See a few cases and we will try. There is one more sitting in the back, another teacher, another Jyotish Guru. We should see Jyotish Gurus, whether they are worth it or not. Don't waste time with them. Credibility. Any planet in Vargottama?
This is the exercise time.
Whichever exercise you take, I do not know. This planet is not changing position.
I know. Just curious. That is in your computer.
Mars is Vargottama. What else is Vargottama? So what does Mars Vargottama mean? He is a good soldier and he will make a good general. So in matters of war, he should be the first one to be picked up. You got a battle with somebody, talk to him.
Anyone.
Yes. Talk to him, he will give you the best advice. He is so swift and fast that you cannot manage. Second, what about Mercury?
Yes. Teaching, training.
Yes, and Mercury is in which sign?
Fire.
Just now you saw one Aries, now you see another Aries, Vargottama, Mercury. Is that both of them have the ability, both of them spoke on the Boston conference last time. You will have heard them. Yes, it does. It means taking one step forward and one step back. 3 steps forward. It's like the monkey, you have seen that? Climbing the ladder, falling back, climbing the ladder, falling back. That is retrogression. Retrogression means he has to be given more chesta bala. He has to try more than what normal people do. Chesta means to try more. For him, it is very easy. It is done, it's natural. For him, chesta bala is more. He has to work harder. He has to try more. He has to take 3 steps up. He will slip 2 steps. Again 3 steps up. Again slip 2 steps. Like that. More frustration. More difficulties. But he will do it. Okay. Shall we see one more? Quickly I want to show you some. And then we can go to others. Any planet Vargottama? Which sign?
Leo.
You think he was a good teacher? PVR Narasimha Rao. How many cases you want of astrologers who have made a mark or done a very good deal in teaching Jyotish or teaching? You
What
find
is teaching? Communication.
communicating the knowledge
You are a great
related
writer.
to spirituality. Jyotish is a spiritual science. I'm not going to accept it as not spiritual. Because you can see, in all these charts I've shown, Mercury is in a fire sign. And Virgo Tama that I've shown. My chart as well. Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else in any Virgo Tama planet? Okay, we'll start. Okay, let's hear your planet. In?
Virgo, Kanya.
So what does it mean? What does Jupiter's Virgo Tama mean? Jupiter is a priest. Jupiter is involved with temples and churches and things like that. So what does it mean? Atmakaraka will talk later. First, know what is Virgo Tama. That means he is the pure one. So you have to first learn to be a good monk before you become a priest. And that is your ability. That is a gift from God. That is the meaning of Virgo Tama. Virgo Tama is a gift from God. Don't throw it away. It is the sign Virgo. So Virgo is a very material sign. Think about it. Virgo is a Prithvi Tattva. It is not Agni Tattva. So what is the priest doing in the material world? In such a material sign? So he is not teaching spirituality. What is he doing? Think in those lines. And that is what you will do very well. Like for example, let us say you do a good job. You take up a good social task. Collect funds for let's say some temple. Your job, let us take up a financial job for the priest. Start that work. It will show you the direction by itself. Yeah.
What does Virgo Tama Lagna mean? I have Virgo.
Virgo Tama Lagna. Lagna is your health, your intelligence. Virgo Tama Lagna means his intelligence is fixed, does not change. Such people can be stubborn in the negative sense. In the positive sense, they take a lot of time to make up their mind, but when they make up, it's perfect. Also, it shows that Lagna is health. They are blessed by the Mrityunjaya mantra. Normal infantry vessel is not working like that. Shatabdika. Mrityunjaya mantra, yes. Anyway. Very good. So moon is compassion. So the traits of the moon, compassion, kindness, taking care, thinking in terms of society, in a group, that's all that will happen. You are always concerned about group working, group society. Any planet Virgo Tama will give benefit. Because that is your ability. See, if I am given an ability, it is good for me, na? I must have some skills, some ability. So planet who is giving me that ability, I must use those abilities. God has given you an ability for you to use. If you don't use it, in the next life, you will not get it. Saturn, tell me what ability did he give? Ability to work very hard. What else? You can take up any work and patiently any work of any kind and diligently work to completion. You will not give up until you finish the work. You will not sleep. You are very hard working person. Also very patient. Also can take a lot of sorrow.
I have Jupiter and Saturn, both Virgo. Jupiter is the Aries and Saturn is the Cancer.
Aries is the more spiritual sign. Fire signs are the spiritual signs. So when Jupiter is Virgo, it gives you an ability to become a priest. To direct people in the spiritual path. Who is a priest? To direct somebody in the spiritual path. Saturn is a renunciate or a hardworking, but where is Saturn? Is it in the fire sign? Cancer is a water sign. So Moksha Trikona. That is more towards renunciation. But it shows the ability to work hard. Jupiter can also, you see, I am talking of by nature I am more spiritual, so I talk of Jupiter as the priest. Jupiter could also be the banker. So it can give you ability to understand finance and money. Don't think of only one thing. When a planet is Vargottama, all its traits will be there. But the area where it will be the fire, water, earth, like that. And then focus back on the particular sign. Why Aries, why not Leo? First, the planet that is Vargottama, then the tattva that it is in, then the particular Rashi it is in. Okay? Yeah.
The planet being debilitated, for example, there will be a Jupiter being Vargottama. Is that also what will be the difference between?
It does. When a planet is exalted and Vargottama, it shows that you will easily follow its path. When a planet is debilitated in Vargottama, it shows that you could fall from its path. Falling from its path can cause severe, you could hurt yourself very badly. Because the Vargottama planet shows you yourself, your life, your health. If in a chart Jupiter is debilitated and Vargottama, that is bad because Jupiter is your intelligence. And your intelligence is falling. And Vargottama means it is you and not anybody else. It is affecting you and your life. It could ruin your life. In one case, Jupiter in the 5th house was debilitated in Vargottama. He went mad completely. Schizophrenia.
What if moon is Vargottama and it has no with another planet? What will happen there?
Yes, such a person will be tested very heavily in life. In those matters of the moon which we talked of. Amavasya. It was on Amavasya that the moon kidnapped Tara. Yeah. In the negative sense, he can cheat. He can be a brilliant cheat. Even to cheat, you need brains. There was a person who sold the Leaning Tower of Pisa to a tourist from America. I admire the brains of the person who sold it, and I really, what I was talking about the American who bought it. Just think of it. The Leaning Tower of Pisa has been leaning for so long, and somebody not only sold it, he took money for repairing it so he can straighten it. It's one of the big crimes in history. So even to do crime, you need brains. So Rahu and Ketu give you brains. Rahu gives the brains to research, the ability to think and ponder, and that's why you can do research. Ketu is the headless one. That is what you are working totally on intuition. The sixth sense is very sharp and strong. But both are very intelligent planets. Parasara system.
What if Atma Karaka is also Lagna Karaka, which is Lagna Lord also?
We did Jawaharlal Nehru horoscope this time. But Lagna Lord was Atma Karaka. Vivekananda Atma Karaka was in Lagna, but it is not in Lagna. Okay, so generally we have touched the Atma Karaka, as you can see, and we have also touched a host of other areas. Because it is not possible to take one area alone, I thought I should cover a broad. I am very happy to see that you are very developed, very, very advanced. And for a class less than a year,
2 months.
it is 2 months.
Some of them joined only 1 month back. They are getting that.
Truly brilliant.
Question.
The question of asked. Okay. No, Vargottama, so it shows that an ability is given to you. When the Atma Karaka is Vargottama, that means that soul has been having that ability from last birth. And when it is given to you in this birth, it means you must have used it well in the last birth. So, in Vivekananda's chart, Surya is the Atma Karaka. It's a very spiritual planet, and it is Vargottama in which sign? In fire signs. Mesha, Simha and Dhanus are fire signs. Of these fire signs, Dhanu is the temple. So his Atma has been associated from a temple with a temple from a past incarnation. So Vargottama, and he has been ability. What is his ability? What is the ability of Surya? As an administrator, one who can set up something, who can start something big. He starts, he is the beginner, he is Dinakara, he is the one who creates the day. So great creator. That is what Vivekananda did, no? He created the Ramakrishna mission. He started it, he initiated it. It is like a temple. The Ramakrishna mission is like a temple. That is what he initiated. His idol of worship in the temple, that is the ninth lord, is in Lagna, that is Surya. His guru is the one who worships over there. For him, guru worship was more important than any god. See the point? So when a planet is Varvatama and is the Atma Karaka, it shows that you have this ability from last birth. But because you could not finish the task in the last birth, you have taken birth now to finish it. Am I being understood clearly? So you better take this Atma Karaka, Varvatama Atma Karaka very seriously. Otherwise your whole life will be nothing but another waste and you will come back again. Because the Lord is Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week, same, actually not same time. We'll be back to our 9 o'clock time, 9 to 11, same place.
I also wanted to just say that I think the last time we celebrate India's Independence Day. So I'll do it here.
Please, thank you. See you to say the benevolence.